Hello, everybody. It's
Hey.
Monday with Jesus.
All right. Here we are, another week. How about that?
And one of the best stories there is in the
One of
Gospel
the best
of Mark.
stories in the whole of the gospel tradition. That's right. Mark puts it right at the before Jesus goes in Jerusalem because he loves this story.
All right. You're going to tell it for us, Tom, or you want me to?
Oh, I'm up for it.
All
I'm
right.
up.
Go ahead.
And they came to Jericho. As he was leaving Jericho with his disciples and a large crowd, Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the side of the road. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth who was passing by, he cried out in a loud voice and said, "Son of David, Jesus, have mercy on me." And many rebuked him, told him to shut up. But he cried out all the louder, "Son of David, have mercy on me." And Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." And the people said to him, "Take heart, get up, man, he's calling you." So Bartimaeus threw aside his cloak, sprang up, and came to Jesus. And Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" And he said, "My Rabbi, I want to see again." And Jesus said, "Go. Your faith has saved you." And immediately he received his sight, and he followed him on the way.
All right. There you have it. Story of Bartimaeus. Yep. Now, when I teach introductory biblical storytelling, I often, go through kind of parts, major aspects of stories, like the setting, the characters, the plot, objects.
Right.
And usually I explain that a lot of stories will begin either with the introduction of a character or an establishment of the setting. And this one starts with gusto establishing the setting. This short sentence that you gave with a whole lot of energy, and they came to Jericho. So what's the deal about that? Why is, first of all, it's kind of interesting. I think somehow a short sentence does seem to give a lot of emphasis. And you certainly interpreted it that way. And why would Mark have done that?
Well, it is a distinctive intro. It does give more emphasis to Jericho than to any other place in terms of the setting for a story. And it's characteristic of Mark's storytelling that when he has a very short colon in Greek composition, we call it a sentence. He does it for emphasis. And so in this case, Jericho invites all the memories of Jericho. But especially, the walls came tumbling down, and Joshua at the Battle of Jericho. And so it was a special place in the traditions of Israel, a place of victory and of triumph.
Right. All right. So we can imagine Jesus is entering Jericho, and then the next thing is he's leaving Jericho. And then we hear who he's with. He's with his disciples and a large crowd. And then we come to, sort of the main character of the story besides Jesus, who is called Bartimaeus. So what does Bartimaeus mean?
Bartimaeus means son of Bar, son of Timaeus. And Timaeus means in Greek honor. So it was a name that carried with it, what the parents of his father wanted for him to be a person of honor. And so Bartimaeus is a person of honor, and he's a blind beggar sitting by the side of the road. So the contrast between his name and his place is really poignant.
Right. Yeah, especially given that they're in or just outside of Jericho, which is
Right.
of great honor and tradition.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So we have the setting, the characters, and then we have like the first significant plot movement. He cries out, and we get these stage directions in a loud voice, which you demonstrated. So he cries out, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Is son of David, I mean, it feels like it's a common title for Jesus, but I have a feeling it hasn't been introduced yet in Mark.
No, first time, and it's a political title. The son of David would be then a candidate for king. And so to be called a son of David was like saying, he's a candidate for president. Here he is, the son of David. And so it's the first thing that he calls him, the son of David, Jesus, have mercy on me. Yep. Big deal. And the first time, and in the context of what's happening, of his now going into Jerusalem, it establishes the possibility that Jesus is one who's going to establish a new kingdom.
And that have mercy on me. I read someplace that's sort of used in the Psalms a lot in addressing God, but it's not so much have mercy, it's be gracious unto me, the same phrase. I thought that was pretty interesting. So he's addressing Jesus as one who could be gracious as the Lord God would be. But
Right.
the people don't want him to be doing this. They rebuke him. It's a pretty strong word.
Yep.
Why would that be?
Well, it's an embarrassment for the city. This great teacher is going through town, and their least attractive representative then calls for attention. And so, yeah, they want him to be quiet and not call attention to himself. So yeah, they tell him to shut up.
Right. Yeah.
For the stature of their city.
But he doesn't. So
Nope.
he
All the louder.
right. Yeah. The second time he doesn't say Jesus, he just sticks with that title.
Right.
Really emphasizing
He figures it'll get his attention.
Yeah. Yeah, and it did. He was right. Jesus stopped. Get this great image of all these people, and Jesus suddenly stopping, and Jesus hears. Yeah. And says call him. So they do. He comes to Jesus, and then Jesus asks him this question: what do you want me to do for you? Which sort of sounds familiar to me. Have we heard that recently in the Gospel of Mark?
Yeah. Well, I like to think of this as that Bartimaeus gets on the radio on the PMBL network, the poor, the maimed, the blind, and the lame, the network of those who call out to Jesus for help. So I was thinking about that. What was your question?
Oh, didn't Jesus just ask that of? I'm trying the story of James and John.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah. Yep, they came up and said, we want you to do whatever we ask of you. And Jesus said, well, what do you want me to do for you?
Yeah.
And they said, let us sit at your right and your left. So they want power. What Bartimaeus wants, very different.
Yeah. And they didn't necessarily get what they asked for. Well, they did in one sense. They got persecution. But anyway, Bartimaeus then wants to receive the sight, and
Right.
and he
And
does.
the word, it's strange to me that the translation translates it as my teacher, which is not an inappropriate translation for, but the word is Rabboni, and it's a word of both respect and affection. So it's Rabboni, my rabbi. I want to see again. And the word in Greek, anablepso, does mean again. Blepo means to see. Anablepo means to see again. So the implication is that Bartimaeus had been able to see, but he had some disease or something that had blinded him, that had taken his sight, maybe glaucoma.
And Jesus basically says it's sort of already been done. You, and I think you said your faith has saved you. Seems to me, I remember it being your faith has made you well.
Yeah.
So it's a healing story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, how would his faith have made him well? I mean, Jesus didn't
First
do
of
it.
all, in relation to this saving thing, it's a dispute about translation, but the word in Greek is sozo, which means to save.
Okay.
Doesn't mean make you well. It
Okay.
means to save.
Okay.
And so it's a better translation.
Okay. All right. And Jesus doesn't do stuff like he does in some of the other healing stories where he, spits and puts his hands on eyes, or uses some special words. He just
Right.
says it's been done. Your faith has saved you. So
Right.
yeah. Great. Okay. And then Bartimaeus follows him.
Right.
Yep.
So the implication of this is that his faith has power. And so at this point in the story, it's a recommendation that Mark makes to follow Bartimaeus and to have faith in Jesus as one who can set people free, who can enable them to energize that which is already in them and to have confidence in that. So this is about his empowering Bartimaeus to put his faith into practice, and that energy saved him.
Is this a kind of a call story? Because Jesus does say, "Call him."
Yeah.
So as well as
and at the end of it, and he followed him.
Yeah.
So he followed him on the way.
On the way, which
So
isn't that what the Christians were called early on? The people of the way.
Not in the gospel. They are in Acts.
Okay.
It's called the way, but
Right.
that isn't what it means here.
Okay.
It means he followed him on the way up to Jerusalem.
The way to Jerusalem, which was
So
like
he joined the band of disciples.
Yeah.
And so it is a kind of call story, but it's also clearly a healing story.
Mhm.
So it's kind of both. It's a mixed form that is, again, distinctive in the stories of the Gospel of Mark.
Okay. Are there any implications we can draw from this story for ministries of peace and justice today?
Yep. Call out and ask for what you want and demand it. The implication of Bartimaeus crying out is that the way to liberation is to call out, to ask for what you want. And so the process of nonviolent demonstrations. That's what he does. He mounts his own demonstration. And so the implication is that the way of implementation in relation to the forces of justice and peace in the kingdom of God is to say what you want.
And to be persistent about it, and not to be
Right.
deterred by people who are telling you to shut up.
Shut up. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a
Even if
classic,
you're, even if you're kind of at the bottom of society, as you must have been.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Call out. And so Jesus recognizes the power that is present in his belief and in his confidence that Jesus can do something for him.
All right. Well, it's a great story. It's really an easy one to learn as well. So do that, I would suggest. And one of the things you can do,
Make it one of your stories.
yeah, as you go over it, I mean, it's just a great way to imagine, to pray with the story that Jesus has called you to come before him and ask you, what do you want me to do for you? And then to notice what are the deep desires of your heart, as Ignatian spirituality would teach us.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to dedicate this particular session with Mark to Bob Washington, who was my colleague at New York Theological Seminary, was one of the leaders of the civil rights movement in Harlem, and a community organizer, a wonderful man, and he was going blind. And at the commencement of NYTS in what was it, 1968?
Yeah.
No, 78. Bob told this story, and I remember it so vividly because he knew that he was losing his sight, and he told it with such power and presence. So I want to dedicate this to Bob Washington.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye.